Stop scrolling for 1 second, because if you are a man over 60, there is a good chance your circulation is quietly working harder than it did 20 years ago, and most people never think about it until something forces them to. Cold feet in the evening, a bit of afternoon heaviness in the legs, needing a moment to catch your breath after stairs you used to take without thinking, these are common signs that blood flow is not moving through your body the way it once did. Today, I want to walk you through 4 fruits that have real research behind them when it comes to supporting healthy circulation and heart health as we age, what the science actually says, what it does not say, and how you might realistically add them to your week. I'm Dr. Emmy Takita, a urologist with over 30 years of experience helping men like you regain their energy, performance, and vitality. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Before we go any further, if you're serious about protecting your prostate, staying strong, and living without fear, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I share real information backed by real science for men just like you. And if this topic matters to you, type 1 in the comments and tell me where in the world you're watching from. If that sounds fair, stick around, because the science here is genuinely interesting, and by the end, you will know exactly which fruit to reach for first. Let's start with why circulation changes as we get older, because once you understand the mechanism, everything else will make a lot more sense. Deep inside the lining of your blood vessels sits a molecule called nitric oxide. Its job is simple but essential. It tells the smooth muscle in your blood vessel walls to relax, which widens the vessel and lets blood move through more easily. When nitric oxide is working well, circulation feels effortless. Oxygen and nutrients reach your muscles, your brain, your extremities, without your body having to fight for it. Research has shown that nitric oxide production naturally declines with age, and this decline is one of the reasons blood vessels tend to stiffen over time, a process doctors sometimes call arterial stiffness. Picture a garden hose that used to be soft and flexible. Over years in the sun, it becomes a little stiffer, a little less responsive. Water still flows through it, but not quite as easily as before. This is not something to panic about. It is a normal part of aging, but it is also something you have more influence over than most people realize. And that is where these 4 fruits come in. Let's get into the first one, and I think this is the one most people underestimate. Fruit number 1 is beetroot. Beetroot is naturally rich in compounds called dietary nitrates. When you eat or drink beetroot, your body converts those nitrates into nitrites and eventually into nitric oxide, the very molecule we just talked about. A number of clinical studies, including research published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and in hypertension research journals, have found that beetroot juice can produce a measurable, short-term reduction in blood pressure in some people, along with improved blood vessel responsiveness. Some studies have shown effects within a few hours of consumption, though the size of the effect varies quite a bit from person to person. It is worth being clear about what this research does and does not show. It does not show that beetroot cures anything or that it works the same way for everyone, and the effect tends to be modest rather than dramatic. But as a simple, low-risk addition to a heart-healthy diet, it has more evidence behind it than most trendy supplements you will see online. You can eat beetroot roasted, add it to salads, or drink a small glass of beetroot juice a few times a week. If you have kidney stones or are prone to them, talk to your doctor first, since beets are high in oxalates. So that is fruit number 1. Nitrates in, nitric oxide up, blood vessels a little more relaxed. But turning nitric oxide on is only half the story, because your body also needs to protect it once it is made. That brings us to fruit number 2, and this is where things get interesting. Fruit number 2 is pomegranate. Pomegranate is one of the richest known food sources of polyphenols, a category of plant compounds with strong antioxidant activity. Antioxidants matter here because nitric oxide is fragile. It breaks down quickly in the presence of oxidative stress, which tends to increase with age and with conditions like high blood pressure or diabetes. If beetroot helps your body produce nitric oxide, pomegranate's polyphenols may help protect it from breaking down too fast, giving it more time to do its job in your blood vessels. Several small clinical trials, including ones published in journals like Atherosclerosis and Clinical Nutrition, have found that regular pomegranate juice intake over several weeks was associated with modest improvements in blood vessel flexibility and, in some studies, small reductions in blood pressure. The effects tend to build gradually over weeks rather than appearing overnight, which fits with how polyphenols generally work in the body. I want to be honest about the limits here, too. Pomegranate juice is also relatively high in natural sugar, so if you are watching your blood sugar, whole pomegranate seeds or a modest half cup of juice is a more sensible approach than drinking large quantities daily. And a small number of studies have flagged possible interactions between pomegranate and certain blood pressure or cholesterol medications. So again, this is a conversation worth having with your doctor if you take those. Quick recap before we move to fruit 3. Beetroot turns the tap on. Pomegranate helps slow the leak. Two different mechanisms working toward the same goal, better circulation over time. Now here's where I want to pause for a second, because if you are finding this useful so far, this is a good moment to hit subscribe. I put together content like this regularly, walking through what the actual research says about food and healthy aging, without the exaggerated claims you often see in this space. If that is useful to you, subscribing helps me know to keep making more of it. All right. Let's get into fruit number 3, because this one works through a completely different pathway, and I think you will find it interesting. Fruit number 3 is watermelon. Watermelon contains an amino acid called L-citrulline, which your body converts into another amino acid called L-arginine. L-arginine is a direct building block your cells use to manufacture nitric oxide, which means watermelon is feeding a separate production line from the one beetroot supports. Interestingly, research has found that citrulline from food tends to be absorbed and used by the body more efficiently than arginine taken directly, likely because a significant portion of arginine gets broken down in the digestive system before it can be used. Citrulline appears to bypass much of that loss. A handful of small studies have looked at watermelon extract and blood pressure, along with exercise recovery and blood vessel function, generally finding modest, positive effects, particularly in people with mild hypertension or in older adults. The research pool here is smaller than for beetroot or pomegranate, so I would call this promising rather than definitive, but it is a low-risk, genuinely enjoyable fruit to add to your week regardless. The practical upside is that watermelon is easy. No powders, no juicing required, just a bowl of fresh watermelon a few times a week, ideally the reddest, ripest you can find, since that is where the citrulline concentration tends to be highest. So now we have 3 mechanisms working together. Beetroot's nitrates feeding one pathway, pomegranate's polyphenols protecting the result, watermelon's citrulline feeding a second, separate pathway toward the same molecule. That is already a meaningfully well-rounded approach, but there is one more fruit I want to mention because it plays a slightly different role. Fruit number 4 is tart cherries. Tart cherries are well studied for something a little different from the first 3, sleep and inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the quiet contributors to blood vessel stiffness over time, and tart cherries are rich in anthocyanins, another class of antioxidant compounds, which several studies have linked to reduced markers of inflammation, and in a few sleep-focused studies, modest improvements in sleep quality, likely related to their natural melatonin content. Better sleep and lower inflammation will not show up as dramatically as a blood pressure number, but they matter for circulation over the long run, since poor sleep and chronic inflammation are both linked to worse cardiovascular outcomes over time. Tart cherry juice or dried tart cherries are the easiest way to add this one, though dried versions often have added sugar, so check the label. Let's bring this together, because I know that was a lot of information. Beetroot supports nitric oxide production through dietary nitrates. Pomegranate helps protect that nitric oxide with polyphenols. Watermelon feeds a separate pathway through citrulline and arginine. And tart cherries support the quieter, longer-term factors of inflammation and sleep that also shape circulation over time. None of these fruits is a cure, and none of them replaces the basics that actually move the needle most: walking regularly, not smoking, managing your weight, staying on top of your blood pressure and cholesterol numbers with your doctor. Think of these 4 fruits as a genuinely evidence-supported way to round out a heart-healthy diet, not a shortcut around the fundamentals. A realistic way to start is simple. Add a small serving of one of these fruits most days of the week, rather than trying to eat all 4 every single day. Roasted beets in a salad a couple times a week, a small glass of pomegranate juice or a handful of seeds, fresh watermelon in the warmer months, and tart cherries or their juice, especially in the evening if sleep is something you are working on. If you found this useful, subscribing helps this channel keep making videos that stick to what the research actually shows, rather than overselling what a single food can do. And if you want to go deeper on any one of these, tell me in the comments which fruit you are most likely to try first. I read through them, and it helps me know what to cover next. Take care of your circulation. It is quietly involved in almost everything else your body does.